Copyrighted music. I can't play the song right here. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll be talking about the LEGO set 75337 ATTE Walker from the Star Wars line. I'm going to start introducing some LEGO videos and some Star Wars videos and whatnot to the channel. I've got various figures from LEGO and Hasbro. Figured I need to post a little more, so I'll be going over this. I've also got some Clone Army, Droid Army, and Mystery Clone videos to come up soon. I have wanted to get an ATT for over a decade, and when I saw this, I could not pass it up. That, with the addition of the 212th Troopers, Cody, and a second Heavy Trooper, Gunner, I could not pass it up. The set comes with 5 clones, 3 battle droids, and 1, I think those are called spire droids, but I can't remember for certain at this time. I've found that you can comfortably fit 13 figures inside, and I'll show you how I have. Of course, including the gunner on top and the driver and cab. I've preferred to use the figures out of the Clone and Battle Droid Battle Pack, because using a bunch of blank white ones is better than a mix of 501st and 212, or 212 and blank. It's just uniformity. I've found it much preferable. So, my 212 fellas and Cody have been spending their time on the plate, and using my gunner out of the Republic battle tank, I have stationed him in the back in the gunner seat. Other than that, it's all just that one gunner from this set, the gunner from the Republic fighter tank, and a handful of standard white clones. Again, 13 figures, that's a pretty good capacity. I've been very excited with this set, and I'll get into a more in-depth review here in a second. The first figure I'll be going over is Commander Cody. I really like this figure. I think they did a pretty good job in designing them. The visors, I'm not a big fan of, but they do work pretty well. It's just they're not quite as good as, say, a Clone Army Customs visor. But the paint job on this figure, or not paint, but print job, I think is pretty good. I found the gray midsection to be an interesting detail. They have a set of medals upon his chest, orange kneecaps, and just generally I think it's a pretty good design for a figure. I don't know how close this is to being correct for Cody, but given how many iterations they made, I hope that they've, improved over time and got the best possible look. It's got the toe printing, leg printing, torso, back of torso, and helmet. No arm printing on this figure, no back or leg printing on this figure. I'll spin it around so you can get a better view. It has dual pistols, a visor, and a helmet. As you can see, the back of the figure has a jetpack printed on, as well as what I presume is a grenade canister, if memory serves. I do really like this design. I think LEGO did a pretty good job with this figure. I'll be moving on to the standard 212th figure in a moment. Be right back. Here's one of the 3 included standard 212th troopers. As you can see, this one in particular has the long rifle equipped. I've got it in his hand so you can see the torso printing a little bit better. Otherwise, I'd have it in that position that you saw at the beginning of the video where it's up against the shoulder. I quite like the design of this figure as well. I'm not big on the idea of all the figures having the exact same battle damage, because if you're army building, it looks kind of ugly to have the same scuff on every single helmet. But I do quite enjoy these figures, and to be quite frank, it's not a huge gripe. As you can see, there's of course the signature orange markings on the helmet, torso, and legs. This is another one of those newer figures, so it has a white hip piece instead of the black one that used to be common on all figures. Generally, this figure is, I'd say it'd fit in really nicely with older 212 troopers. I don't think it'd clash any. and I think it's quite a good design. It sports some scuffs on the helmet, printed on, and generally I think it was a pretty good design. Again, not a big fan of every trooper having the same exact scuff, but it works. I'll be showing you the back here in a second. As you can see, not a whole lot to talk about on the back of the figure, but it does have some decent printing detail on the back. It's got, of course, pretty much standard at this point, back printing. I don't think any modern Star Wars figure goes without back printing. It has a grenade canister on the bottom, some pouches on the side, I can presume for munitions or general equipment. It's got that back panel in the center. I'm not really sure what it does, but it's a feature on all clones. It's got some orange markings on the side, still denoting that 212, and otherwise, there's nothing really to note. It's a pretty standard clone from the back, apart from the orange markings. I'll be moving on to the Gunner Trooper next. Here's the Gunner Trooper. Since I have the, I think it was like 2019 version, I figured I'd compare them side by side. On the left side you see the current one, on the right side you see the older one. I think one of the most notable details, apart from some general design changes, would be the markings on the helmet have become narrower. That, and they've become sharper. Instead of such a blank helmet, they've got more details featured on the helmet, including battle damage. Again, kind of on the fence about including battle damage, because while it doesn't change a whole lot, if you wanted to have that figure in, say, the inside of the vehicle, it's less likely that clone inside the vehicle is going to have large scuffs along their helmet, black soot. But it is a pretty good figure. It's nicely detailed. It definitely improves upon the previous version. I really like this figure. At the moment I have just their standard Trooper blaster in its hand. I don't really have any complaints about this figure. It's a pretty good figure overall. It has the toe printing, knee printing, it's got the torso front and back, it's got the helmet printing. Pretty standard. It has the white waist versus the black one that was common before. I don't know how to feel about that. It's kind of the classic clone feel, but it looks pretty good. I think it worked out nicely. I'll be turning them around so you can see the back in a moment. As you can see, it looks pretty good. Now, of course, since I've flipped around the piece, on the right side's the new figure, on the left side's the old figure. Both of them have the pouches and the grenade canister. Notable detail is that it seems that the straps, instead of being white like on the older figure, are a somewhat tan color. I think that's a decent little detail added on. Makes it stand out a little more. Of course, it's got that back panel featured on clones. Again, it's been updated, it looks sharper, more details, I quite like it. I'll be getting on to just your standard battle droids here in a moment. Be right back. As you can see, a pretty standard B1 battle droid, nothing really major about it. Their only real updates since 1999 have been the right arm being an improved design that can hold a blaster better. And of course, back, I'd say around 2020, 2021, somewhere around there, pretty recently, they started issuing gunmetal gray blasters instead of just plain black for the droids. I kind of like it. I've accidentally put the wrong blasters on the wrong figure a few times just because I'm used to just using black blasters on everyone. But I think it's a decent little detail. I like it. It's an interesting change. Nothing really of major note. Still has the same head, torso, arms, legs that they've had for about, 20 years. Nothing real major. I'll show the back of the figure just for someone that maybe is not fully aware of the figure. But overall, it's a very standard battle droid. As you can see, the back of the figure, pretty bare. It features one stud that could be used for a multitude of purposes. It could be mounted onto a troop carrier with it, or it could have a backpack mounted. It's been used for a few things throughout the past. Nothing real major, it's a pretty simple figure, but considering it's been almost the exact same since 1999, I'd say it survived the test of time. It's a really good figure, it's a great design. If they ever change it, I'll be kinda on the edge about it. The only complaints that I can really air about the standard Baldroid is that it doesn't have any movable joints. But to give it movable joints, you would have to, overhaul the design and make it much more fragile. This is about the best play to fragility ratio that you can get. I'll be moving on to the, I think it was a spider droid, whatever those things were called. I'll be right back. Here's this particular droid. It uses gray droid torsos in the leg, which I find to be an interesting design choice. It also has the bubble turret on the top, with a rapier on the top. I think they did a pretty good job designing this figure. I don't really have any complaints about it. It's better than one of the previous versions that had a stud shooter on the front. I think just a plain barrel is a much better design. It's got some decent posability, and it's pretty lively when you're able to display it right. It's a pretty good figure. I'll show you two more angles on it just so you can get a better view of it. Be right back. As you can see by this new angle, the bottom of the figure is held up with a clear cylinder. The eyes of the figure are made up of a telephone, and the front end of the figure pivots up and down, as do the eyeballs. I'll try to demonstrate a little bit, kind of an awkward position, but that can move, as can the turret, and it has another point of articulation there in the center, but it's rendered unnecessary considering you're able to just go up and down with that. The eyes kind of go along with it, but they're able to be posed separately if you want. The top of the figure, of course, that antenna could be moved around, but I don't think it's technically supposed to. I'll show you the next point of view here in a moment. Nothing real major to note on the side of the figure, except it does showcase one thing I'm not a big fan of on the set. It has that one dark tan plate in the middle of a light gray and dark gray vehicle. I think had they made that plate either light gray or dark gray, it would have been a little bit better. But no real complaints there. It's just kind of an itch. I'll be moving on to the main vehicle and I'll be showing you how I managed to seat all 13 figures. Be right back. As you can see, when the vehicle is in its exploded form, you have a lot of different points in which figures could be inserted or exserted. You've got a driver, a gunner, and a multitude of other positions, as well as a rear gunner, which could also just be a regular passenger seat if you really wanted it to be. As previously mentioned, the only real special figures I have on this set would be the two gunners. Otherwise, they're all standard clones, even the pilot. I don't know if the pilot on this particular set is supposed to be a gunner or not. If it is, I may have to hunt down another gunner clone just because I want to get a decent crew on this thing. But for now, two gunners is plenty for me. I'll show you how I managed to fit the figures, because it's kind of sketchy, but everyone is on studs, and it does fit pretty nice. Technically, you could fit more if you did it kind of haphazard. As you can see here, I've managed to squeeze a number of figures in the back section. All of these figures are on studs. You've got 5 of them in normal seating, and 2 of them there in these makeshift spots. The one figure is standing, but I don't see any real problem there. It works out pretty nicely. I could squeeze one more figure in the back, but I decided to leave the rifle rack in there. It's in kind of an odd position, and it's on a stud at an angle, but it is still on a stud, and it's still solid. It would survive playing. As you can see, the back figure there, the gunner, he's in a pretty good position. I think they did a decent job creating that little back control panel. I'll try to show the front section a little bit. but it's going to be kind of awkward to see, I think. As you can see, again, one figure standing, not too bad, but he is face first into a wall. You've got 3 others that are in sitting positions. 2 of these seats are, of course, the Lego design. 1 of these seats is just blank studs that they left that I used as a seat. And then that standing position is just on the edge of the platform. You could probably squeeze in another 2 figures or so, but again, I wanted to sort of have as stable of a position as I could. You could definitely squeeze in 2 more if you remove the crate and the thermal detonator rack. But again, I much prefer to have everything still in the set, because if you start losing things, it's kind of a hassle. Here you can see the front view of the vehicle. In particular, you can see the weapons. There's, plenty of firepower on this thing. It's got the main gun and 6 cannons. I'd say that's a pretty good amount of armament. I'm not a big fan of the new stud shooters, the ones you can see on the sides here, but they did manage to at least integrate them pretty well into this design. Some of the other sets they've released, they didn't do a great job of integrating them, but I think this one looks decent enough to leave them. The bubble turrets on the front, the ball turrets, I don't have any issues with them. They look pretty good for what they are. Now, when I got this set, there were 2 errors with the set. One of them, some I kind of enjoyed, a thermal detonator didn't have the red dot. That I didn't have any issue with. I love the idea of having a thermal detonator that does not have the dot on it, because it means it's not active. In theory, I think all of them should be that way, just because it makes no sense to have every thermal detonator active and ready to blow. But that's a decent error. That's something I enjoyed. What I wasn't too keen on was the fact that it didn't have a sticker sheet, so I had to contact Lego, and over about, I think it was like a 1-week period, I waited, and eventually I ended up receiving the replacement sticker sheet. Lego was pretty timely about getting it out. It was quick, it was easy. It was kind of irritating. But with all the stickers on, it looks phenomenal. It's a great set. I highly recommend it for anyone that wants to get either the set itself or even just the figures. If someone just wants a Commander Cody and a few 212 troopers, great set for it. Overall, I've enjoyed the set. I think it's a great set. It's now part of my clone army, which I think is like 100 some strong now. But I'll be going over the clone army later. But whatever the case, this has been Sam's Vintage Repairs. You can expect more Star Wars, maybe some G.I. Joe stuff soon. Hopefully, you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't, let me know what you didn't enjoy. I'll try to improve upon it. And until next time, see ya. Anyways, this has been Sam's Vintage Repairs. Hope you enjoyed. And until next time, Cobra la 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 la. And until next time, go Joe!